In this video, we will discuss incidents where police officers engaged in racial profiling and then regretted their actions. The footage serves as a reminder that some police officers tend to impose their authority, especially when dealing with people of color. However, there are instances when well-informed citizens stand up for their rights and question these actions. In one such incident where a passenger in a vehicle began recording when approached by a police officer. The officer requested identification, which the passenger declined to provide without knowing the exact law that required it. Despite the officer's claims of knowledge, he couldn't cite the specific law for passenger ID presentation. The interaction emphasizes the passenger's desire to assert his rights, stating that he wasn't under arrest and therefore saw no need to provide identification. He preferred to remain in the vehicle, keeping the recording as a safeguard. The conversation highlights the officer's duty to know and apply the law correctly. When the passenger challenged the lack of specific legal knowledge from the officer, it demonstrated the importance of informed citizens in upholding their rights. Subsequently, the officer asked the passenger to step out of the car, which the passenger refused, citing concerns for his safety and asserting his knowledge of his rights and the Constitution. The exchange underlines the significance of educating oneself about rights and lawful conduct during police encounters. The officer persisted in asking for identification, despite no apparent criminal activity. The video illustrates the tension between asserting one's rights and complying with an officer's requests, leading to a broader discussion about police-citizen interactions and the importance of mutual respect and understanding. The video captures a moment where an individual challenged what they perceived as unjust treatment, reinforcing the necessity of awareness and open dialogues on these matters within society. It also highlights the importance of recording such encounters as a means of accountability. In another incident, we witness a troubling interaction where a police officer singles out an individual for questioning. The individual explains that they are in a rental car, and the officer's questions seem to target their actions and behaviors. The officer inquires about how the car starts, eventually leading to the claim of smelling marijuana in the vehicle. The video exemplifies how subjective judgments, such as the smell of marijuana, can be used as a basis for further investigation by the police. The person in the vehicle continues to assert their innocence and their adherence to the officer's instructions. The encounter raises questions about racial profiling and the use of vague justifications for police intervention. It highlights the need for transparency, understanding, and trust between law enforcement and the public. This incident ultimately led to a legal dispute, emphasizing the significance of holding officers accountable for their actions. In a suburban neighborhood, a black man, John, was driving his own car when he was pulled over by a police officer, Officer Smith. John immediately became concerned as he was aware of the prevalence of racial profiling in his community. As Officer Smith approached the car, John was careful to keep his hands visible on the steering wheel. Officer Smith requested John's license and registration. John asked, "Officer, may I know the reason for the stop?" Officer Smith responded, "Your tail light is out, and I pulled you over to inform you about it." John remained calm but knew his rights. He respectfully asked, "Officer, may I check my tail light while you hold my license and registration? I want to be sure it's working correctly." Officer Smith hesitated but eventually agreed. John stepped out of the vehicle and saw that his tail light was indeed functioning correctly. When he returned to the car, he said, "Officer, my tail light seems to be working fine." Officer Smith returned John's documents without further questioning and let him go. The encounter was a reminder of the importance of knowing your rights and remaining composed when dealing with law enforcement. John's assertive yet respectful approach helped ensure a fair resolution. In a city known for its diverse population, a young Latina woman named Maria was waiting at a bus stop when two police officers approached her. They began asking her questions about her presence at the bus stop and her reasons for being there. Maria, feeling singled out and uncomfortable, asked the officers why they were questioning her specifically. One officer responded, "We're just making sure everything is safe around here, and we ask everyone some questions from time to time." Maria understood her rights and stated, "I appreciate your concern for safety, but it's important to treat everyone equally. I'm waiting for the bus like many others here." The officers continued to press Maria, asking for her identification. Maria, knowing she had done nothing wrong, asked, Is there a reason you need my identification? Have I broken any laws? The officers didn't specify any wrongdoing but insisted on her providing identification. Maria decided to comply but remained assertive about her rights. She gave her ID and then added, "I hope we can all remember the importance of treating people fairly, regardless of their background." This encounter serves as an example of how, even when individuals comply with requests, it's crucial to question and assert their rights when faced with potentially unjust or discriminatory treatment. Maria's assertiveness while remaining respectful helped address the situation and underscore the importance of equal treatment under the law. In a shopping mall parking lot, a middle-aged African-American woman named Sarah was approached by a police officer, Officer Davis, while she was sitting in her parked car. Officer Davis requested her driver's license and registration. Sarah asked, "Officer, may I know why you're asking for my identification? I wasn't driving and my car is legally parked." Officer Davis, while maintaining a professional demeanor, explained that he noticed Sarah had been in her car for an extended period, which led to his inquiry. Sarah was well aware of her rights and knew that merely sitting in a parked car shouldn't warrant an ID check. She said, "Officer, I'm waiting for a friend who's shopping inside. I'm not doing anything wrong. Can I be on my way?" Officer Davis, realizing that Sarah was aware of her rights, politely apologized for the inconvenience, returned her documents, and allowed her to continue waiting in her car without further questioning. This encounter showcased the importance of individuals knowing their rights and asserting them respectfully when facing potentially unwarranted police interactions. In a quiet residential neighborhood, a young Hispanic man named Carlos was taking a leisurely stroll on a Sunday afternoon. He was stopped by a patrolling police officer, Officer Martinez, who began questioning Carlos about his presence in the neighborhood. Carlos calmly asked, "Officer, what seems to be the issue?" "I live nearby and I'm just taking a walk." Officer Martinez responded, "We've had reports of a suspicious person in the area and we're checking IDs." Carlos, while understanding the need for community safety, recognized the potential for racial profiling. He responded, "Officer, I assure you I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm happy to provide my ID, but I'd like to know why I'm being stopped." Officer Martinez took Carlos' ID, checked it, and after confirming that Carlos was a resident in the neighborhood, handed it back and said, "I apologize for the inconvenience. We're just being cautious in response to some reports. You're free to continue your walk." Carlos accepted the officer's apology and went on with his stroll. This interaction underscored the importance of respectful assertiveness when faced with unwarranted questioning by the police, even in one's own neighborhood. Carlos' confidence in asserting his rights helped address the situation fairly. In a local park, a group of young black teenagers was enjoying their afternoon when a police car pulled up. Officer Johnson approached the group and began asking them questions about what they were doing in the park. The teenagers politely explained that they were just hanging out and enjoying their day off from school. However, Officer Johnson persisted, asking each teenager to show identification. One of the teenagers, Michael, asked, "Officer, why are we being asked for our IDs? We're not causing any trouble, and we have every right to be in this public park." Officer Johnson responded by saying, "We've had some reports of disturbances in the area, and we need to check everyone's IDs." The teenagers were aware that they were being racially profiled and that their presence in the park was being unfairly scrutinized. Michael decided to remain calm and respectfully assert his rights, saying, "Officer, we understand the need to maintain safety, but we haven't done anything wrong. We shouldn't have to show our IDs if we're not suspected of a crime." Realizing that the teenagers were knowledgeable about their rights, Officer Johnson decided to leave without further questioning. During a routine subway ride in a major city, a young Asian man named Kevin was approached by a transit police officer, Officer Ramirez. The officer asked Kevin for his identification, even though he hadn't witnessed any suspicious behavior on Kevin's part. Kevin calmly asked, "Officer, why are you requesting my ID? I'm just commuting to work like everyone else." Officer Ramirez explained, "We're conducting random checks for security purposes." Kevin knew he was likely being singled out due to his appearance. He responded, "Officer, I understand the importance of safety. but random checks shouldn't be based on someone's appearance. I believe I have the right to privacy unless there's reasonable suspicion. Officer Ramirez acknowledged Kevin's assertion of his rights and allowed him to continue his commute without further interference. This interaction emphasized that even in public transportation settings, it's crucial to know your rights and assert them respectfully when confronted with potential racial profiling. In conclusion, these videos serve as a stark reminder of the challenges people of color face when encountering law enforcement and the importance of being informed about their rights. They'd also underscore the need for better police training, community police relations, and accountability to prevent racial profiling and unjust treatment during encounters with the police.